So welcome back to CSE 255. We're starting to get more hands-on in this module, and through the end of this module, it's actually going to be pretty exciting. Some of the basics that you need to have in terms of the skills and abilities to make quick work of installation scenarios in a support environment. So this isn't the kind of thing you do at your home, but if you were working tech and you were interested in making things easier for the organization you support, you would create the proper USB install media. I want to raise a shout out to Kevin Monsanto, who picked up on the idea that things have changed with the media creation tool. And give me just a second here. The media creation tool is the Microsoft provided utility you can download to capture an image of your Windows installation from your active PC. Now, what's different is that it's not a backup. It is an installation media creation tool. So that's where you get the name of this thing. But it captures elements of your system that are unique. The MAC address of your Ethernet port and your wireless card, the serial numbers of certain components in your system. It's a unique footprint unlike any other device or system on the planet, and that it embeds that into a latest download of the Windows operating system. Now, Kevin tagged me in and gave me a heads up that something had changed. And originally we had a link for the media creation tool. Now, in many years prior, the media creation tool was the media creation tool was the media creation tool that you used because we had Windows 10 in 2016, and then we had a new version of Windows 10 in 2017, 2018, 2019, all the way up to 2022. But it turns out that as we break onto the scene with Windows 11, the media creation tool is entirely different. And so Kevin was jumping through this activity, and when he discovered that basically things weren't working, it just wasn't firing off. And so he requested additional assistance. And I love it when stuff like this happens. Technology is always changing. Last season, we had an install with remote server administration tool called RSAT, and then Windows Administration Center, WAC. And it turns out that there were some components of WAC that had been deprecated or retired. That's kind of frustrating, but it is an opportunity to take stock in how fast moving the tech industry is and then to make adjustments. So because Kevin was a good steward of the misfire, brought it to my attention, sent me a notice of record and said, hey, I really got to get to the bottom of this. I will be posting additional credit for Kevin Monsanto. And for those of you who are in the session now, if you wouldn't mind unmuting your microphone, let's give Kevin just a short round of golf claps. Okay, is that, yay, Kevin? Yeah, unmute your microphone. Oh, there we go. All right.
Keep going, man.
Yeah, kudos. Now, in like fashion, isn't it interesting when lightning strikes twice? Coming on the heels of that, Milrain Hodge noticed that there was a reference to a study guide from a previous season that was embedded in the assignment criteria for 2.2. And actually, this assignment was transposed from another module in a previous season. So what we've done is kind of accelerated some of the activities from later modules in earlier offerings of the course and given students a chance to engage sooner. The rest of the detail that you see from this point on has been updated, right? And so we're dealing with multiple versions of Windows 10 where Windows 10 clients are concerned. And so you could have some clients that can't upgrade to 21H2 or 22H2 for a variety of reasons. But that's not the part that Milrain picked up on. It had to do with the study guide. And I realized that when we were transposing some of the material, refactoring some of our course content, and the content from the later module 2 years ago wasn't transported into the new version of our study guide draft like I thought it was. And so Milrain sent an email, same idea, called it out, and I investigated. And in the same manner, what's come of it is an updated reference that now includes the material from that later module 2 years ago. I've amended or updated the study guide draft. And if you look now in the study guide draft, you'll see in page 3, it talks about, and this is actually in page 3, at the top of page 3, it talks about, that's in here. Hold up. So the student learning objective wording was tweaked just a bit. We've revised that as well. So it now reads, explain differences and considerations for different install media types. And then now, when we get down to, oh yeah, okay. It's at the very top. So the reference is at the very top of page 3 of the nearly complete draft. So we're going to finish putting that together the rest of the way. And if you recall from our Monday session, we had everybody repeat out loud Slipstream. In any case, there was relevant information that we wanted students to read before they engaged the activity, and we wanted that available in the study guide. So at the end of this section where we talk about out-of-box experience, in our student learning objective D, there's new information. Much of this is a repeat or reiteration of things we've already talked about in class, but there is some new stuff that's pretty cool. And what I'd like to do is encourage you to go ahead and read that before you start tackling the 2.2 session. So I would like to honor Milrain's stewardship of, and good catch, Milrain. In like fashion, could we unmute our microphones? Golf clap for Milrain now, his turn. Yay, Milrain! Thank you much, appreciate it. Hope that wasn't too embarrassing. Anyway, I offer bounties for people who catch things, and it's always good when that happens. Thank you, gentlemen, both. What I'd like to do now is go back and resume our review of the solution. So at the latter half of the session Monday, we were reviewing the steps that you follow in your local machine to make sure that you can use local systems quickly and efficiently. And so part of this was setting the stage to use the name so that instead of having to remember IP addresses or instead of having to remember fully qualified domain names, we walk through the steps to modify the host's file in Notepad. Now, one of the important things about this file, the host's file, that's critical to understand is that when you're trying to find network resources that are named resources on a network, we typically use DNS. We use the domain name system. However, the hosts file in PCs and laptops and in servers is read first. before DNS is queried by the computer for a name. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but what I want to do is connect the dots a little further so you can see just how powerful this is. And I want to tell you that this is also something that hackers use. This is something that hackers use to hijack systems so that when people are entering a domain name in a browser or with email, that content can be redirected through another machine in a local neighborhood, and everybody thinks it's a different system. So what am I saying? I'm going to demonstrate this. We have, oh, hold on just a second. I want to update my attendees real quick. Good afternoon, James. How are you? Are you there, James? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and start my virtual machine. And while my virtual machine is loading up, I'm going to go ahead and get back into the hosts file, and I want to show you something that I think is really amazing. And again, this is a hacker trick. So I am going to start my notepad, and one of the important caveats of running your notepad is that you can't just have it open like this. You can't just open Notepad like this. What's the special qualification when you're working with the host file that's different about opening Notepad? Can anyone recall?
No, I'm blanking on that.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a hint. If I just open Notepad and I make changes to the host file and I try to save it, I can't. I have to open Notepad by running as administrator. If I don't do that first, I can't modify the contents of the host's file. And because the host file isn't hosts.txt, it's just hosts. When I go looking for it inside my computer, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go into the operating system volume, or sysvol, right, which is typically in the Windows directory. And I'm going to go into the system32 folder. And then it's in a directory that's counterintuitive, but you got to think about how named resources, how is the network traffic driven? How do you drive network traffic to a named resource on a network? For that reason, I hope that helps with the, the logic, right? Everybody follow that? So we're driving the network traffic to the named resources on the network. We're going to use the drivers folder, the drivers directory, and I'm going to go into the etc. folder, or etc directory. And I don't see anything, but that's because I have to pull down this to show all files. And when I open now, I can make a change. Now, you don't see anything here. So I'm on my host called Zorg. And this time I'm working in reverse. In our previous class, I changed the hosts file on my virtual machine, this machine, the one you're seeing right now. And I want to log in very quickly here to see what IP address it's picked up today. I'm hoping it's the same one. So one of the things you want to do with a server eventually is you want to pin down, especially before you start putting resources that are going to be used constantly. You want to establish a fixed IP address. You want to set up a static IP address. You want to manually configure a network address outside the range of automatically assigned addresses. And then that way, when you're setting up the host file or you're setting up DNS, it's like an anchor. It's like the North Star on your network. It never changes. Does everybody understand that analogy?
Yeah, I think so.
So here I am in my server, And the goal of our solution is for you to discover how easy it is to set up network resources, named resources. And this becomes your home base. Every time you're on a new machine, instead of going out to the internet, instead of dragging and carrying thumb drives around, you can have folders on this machine that you share, and then you can just drag and drop stuff from the old machine to the new machine, from the old build to the rebuild. It's actually a very powerful idea, right? So I'm going to go into the local server, and I'm hoping that this has picked up a .4 or a .6 address. The name of this machine is Lilu, the heroine of the fifth element, and the host machine is named Zorg, right? And eventually, I hope when you're bored, you're going to look that up online and take a look at that movie, because it's just set 300 years in the future. All right, we're in .6, so that has not changed. That's because the lease that the automatic network addressing DHCP assigns, there's a fairly long lease, and it lasts so many hours. And when it sees the same MAC address, it says, oh, I remember this, and it gives it the same address if no other device has taken it. So I'm not going to worry about the static right now. That would be a value added thing you could do for additional credit. And that's kind of a cool thing. If any of you are interested in that, send me an email that says, I want you to show me in a short video how to establish a static address for a named resource in my home network, and we'll do that. So this machine, Lilu, is on .6, 192.168.1.6. Everybody with me? What else did we do with Lilu before we closed out the session? We installed something on Lilu and set up DNS for redundancy. That's something we did in another class called Systems Security, but we'll get back to that. DNS helps us find named resources on the network. DNS helps us find named resources on the network, but every Windows system and Linux systems has this special file called hosts, where you can manually enter something. And I want you to see something really cool here. I'm going to add 192.168.1.6. And I'm going to call this google.com. What? And
The address that you put in before google.com is like the IP address for google.com?
it's not.
No, it's not. Oh, okay.
I'm telling the hosts file, hey, if you want to find google.com, I want you to go to 192.168.1.6. And in my VM server, I'm going to go into control panel. I'm going to move pretty quick here now. I'm going to go into the Defender firewall. I'm going to go into advanced settings. And when advanced settings opens up, I'm going to go into inbound rules, and I'm going to look for something called Echo or ICMP, because I want you to be able to see what happens when I do this right. So sometimes it's called file and print sharing echo request. Can everybody see this? Echo request, ICMP. That's so I can ping.
I see.
If this rule is not enabled, see, servers tend to be more secure. So if you want to find a server and you want to ping a server, you have its address, you have its name, you try to ping it, the firewall is going to say, no, you can't. I'm going to enable the firewall rule. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. And I'm also going to get in here on my network, and I'm going to make sure that IPv6 is turned off in my adapter, because That could confuse a lot of things, and IPv6 isn't really used. It is turned off, okay. Right, so IPv6 is turned off. And so here I am, right? Now, if I ping Google on my laptop, and I go to my command prompt, I run this as administrator, and I say ping google.com. It's going to find a Google server at 142.1.2 in this part of the world. In the Caribbean, the closest Google server has a public IP address of 142.250.198.89.142, and that could be in a data center in Puerto Rico, or Down Island, or in Florida, right? The important thing to understand is that Google has many different data centers, and quite often when you ping Google, you're hitting the closest one, you're not hitting headquarters. But everybody sees what's happening here, right? And when I go to Google, all I do is open up my prompt and you know, I type for Google and I get Google. But let's pretend here for a second that I was going to do something a little interesting. I'm gonna close all my tabs, and I'm gonna clear my browser cache as well. So I'm gonna go into this, and I'm gonna clear my browser cache, because I don't want my browser cache to remember Google, not on this machine, because I'm about to demonstrate something about host file that I hope will stick with you forever, okay? So I'm gonna go to the advanced option, and I'm gonna clear everything. So it's just a good idea to do that anyway. I'm gonna close this browser. I'm also gonna close my Exchange, my Bing browser, but I'm also gonna go ahead and clear the cache in here because I don't want anything to cross-pollinate, right? Where's my option? Oh, there it is. Choose what to clear. I want to clear everything. Okay. Everybody with me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Clear now. Now I'm going to close my Bing. And now finally what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this command prompt and open another one. And oh, by the way, I got to save this. Okay. I'm going to save this. And I want my DNS on my host machine to come from, I want that to come from an automatic source, right? Like my internet service provider or something. So if I click on this, and where are we? It should pop up. It's playing hard to get. Okay. Yep, it's playing hard to get. On my host, I'm going to go into my network sharing center. I'm going to go into my adapter settings. And in here, does anybody remember? Oh, no, I didn't mean to cut it off. Yeah, that's bad. No, okay. Are we back? Is everybody back? Are we back yet?
I don't think we left.
Okay.
No, we didn't leave.
Oh, for a minute there, I clicked the wrong part of that Wi-Fi icon and it cut my Wi-Fi off. I thought, oh no. Yeah.
I was wondering if that's what happened.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here and under properties in the TCP/IP, I'm just going to let it pick a DNS server automatically. So I'm not even pointing it. I'm not even pointing it at my server DNS. I'm not even pointing it at my virtual machine, which is running its own DNS, which would be much more efficient and much faster than the internet service. I'm just going to use the standard settings. Everybody with me? And what I'm going to do now that I'm sure that we've got that setting in place, and I've saved my hosts file with the change, I'm going to flush my DNS by using an ipconfig command. So here we go. ipconfig flush DNS, all one word. There's a space right there in between the / and the flush DNS. Is everybody with me? Now I have just opened the firewall on my server so that it will accept ping requests. I'm just recapping what we've done. On this machine, I've modified the host file so that a named resource on my local network is pointing to a specific machine. And before you saw me ping Google, right? Everybody saw me do that. Yeah. And it pinged Google properly, right? So now I'm going to do this again. And does anybody have a prediction about what I'm going to see when I ping google.com? What's going to come up?
Maybe the IP address that you injected into the host notepad document text file.
It thinks that machine is google.com. Oh, now let's take it a step further. Are you ready for this? This is just too cool. I'm going to turn this server into a web server. I'm going to add a role. I'm going to add the Internet Information Services role. And I want you to become familiar with how this works, because there is a time later in class, later in this course, I'm going to teach you how to set up something called Windows Software Update Services. It is a power tool for how to make quick work of Windows deployments and updates, because all of the stuff that Microsoft delivers across a slow internet is on a wicked fast gigabit Ethernet machine that's on the same local network you are, right? So if the internet's down, so what? You have it all, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that role, and I'm going to turn on the service. I'm going to add, and so here's where it gets weird, because, yeah, the screen is a little off. I'm getting, does everybody else see this? It's like I'm getting there it is. Hello, beautiful. That's what I'm looking for right there. Web server, Internet Information Services. Okay. So I'm turning on the web hosting in here. There would be no different if I had a Linux host and I said, okay, I want to host a website, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click next and next and next and install. And I'm going to say, oh yeah, we got to do that. I'll say if a restart is required, we'll reboot the machine. We're going to do the install, right? Now, what's going to happen is that when this is up, it's going to be running. So it's going to put a splash page for my website running on this virtual machine, which is actually what? Running inside my laptop, right? But if I do this kind of thing right in my home, when people type google.com, it's going to hit something else besides Google, right? That's because I want you to understand the built-in power to short circuit or hardwire a named resource on a local network, even when the internet is down, even when DNS isn't functioning, even when the naming services for your local network aren't there. If you hardwire this into your hosts file on your systems, you can do this when you make a system image and it's hardwired in the system image that you roll out. So you do it once, and every time you create a new system with that system image, hello, all the work we've just described and explained at the end of last class Monday and this class today is already in place because it's part of the system image, right? So this is going to hobble along here. But basically, the thing I want you to understand is that if I'm running a server that my web browser knows how to tap into on a system, it's going to pull up the splash page or the, the customary default web page for that server. And maybe I need to turn up more memory and more CPU cores for this thing to run a little faster. Not sure why it's taking as long, but okay. Now, while that's running, I want to engage the other steps in our solution, okay? So that's the important thing. And then at the very end of class, we're going to have a drum roll after the web server is going, and we'll be good to go. There we go. And of course, when I zeroed out my cache, I zeroed out my password, right? By the way, if your password is stored in your web browser and then you change it because you have to at the UVI campus, you know that sometimes the cached version in your web browser doesn't always update like it's supposed to. And when you open the web page, because it automatically goes to the web page, it tries to use the password that's stored, only it's the wrong password. So you know what that does? That's a failed attempt. So what do? You're like, oh, something's wrong. You close the tab, you do it again. Second failed attempt. Third failed attempt. You're locked out. Does anybody understand what I'm saying here today? I'm saying ordinarily it's not a good idea to store your passwords in a browser cache necessarily. Let's see how we're coming with this. It says installation succeeded on Lilu. Okay, close. What that means is that if I open a browser here on Lilu, and then in that browser, I type in 192.168.1.6. Everybody got that? I'm pointing Lilu to herself. There's the splash page. For the internet service for websites, I just established. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. So let's go to this. Instead of the server, I hard-coded, let's finish the demo. I hard-coded this in here for Google. And if I open a fresh browser, you see a splash screen for Google. And Google added some security features because DNS hacks were causing all kinds of problems. If I do this, see, this is HTTPS. There's a padlock. This is the secure connection at Google. I'm going to change this just to connect to the regular. It says continue to the site. Oh, Lord have mercy. What's happened? Somebody's hijacked my browser. Or let's flip this. If you know how to configure this stuff and you have a named resource on your network and you want people to be able to put a single name in their browser and go to it, and boom, everything they need for their what? Reloads, their data, their whatever, it's all there, right? That's very powerful. That's one of the things we want. We want the light bulb to come on where you begin to understand the workaround. Now, once again, once it's hard coded in here, your local machine, if a host file has been modified either intentionally or unintentionally, whether it's on purpose by a hacker or accidental, then strange things can happen. And what I really want to do though is change this, not so it reads Google. What's the name of my machine? Lilu, right? And I want to say 192.168.1.6, and I'm going to say Lilu dot fifth element .net or something like that, right? Fifth element .net. I believe that's what we had last time we were doing this. I'm going to save this now. And I'm going to fix this. I'm going to go to my browser. And I'm going to go here. And what's the command I'm going to run to clear my browser cache? My DNS, my naming cache, my DNS cache. ipconfig. What's the rest of it? Come on, guys. What's the rest of it?
Slash flush DNS.
Flush DNS. That's right. Flush DNS. All right. And so now if I ping Google, Google's back. If I refresh, oh, there she is. There's Google. Kind of nice, isn't it? So do you need DNS? No, you don't need DNS. If you don't have extra stuff, you can still set up a simple resource on your network, name it, use the host file to name it, and then go from there. And we want you to be able to demonstrate that with ease and efficiency. So what else do we want you to do in your solution? After that, now that was that part 2 I did. That's what this is right here. From a command prompt on your virtual system, ping the host system using the name you set up in hosts. And then that's the artifact that you're gonna submit, right? So for every one of these tasks, you're gonna have a screenshot of what you're doing. On the host, I am going to ping my host. Ping Zorg. And there it is. And it's working. Everybody see that? I capture this screenshot. Now, quick trick. When you're trying to capture this screenshot, if you're in here working in a window in your VM and you hit the print screen key, it's going to execute inside the virtual machine. What you should do instead is use the little skinny collapse button, the minimize all button. Can everybody see in the lower right-hand corner where I'm bouncing around here? This button?
Yeah.
It minimizes everything. Then open up your VM again, click to the right of it on your desktop so that this taskbar becomes, it's not active. You don't want this window to be active. So the trick to that is to click on your desktop, then hit print screen, then open Paint or Word and paste your stuff in, and then you have what you need. Any questions about the second task? Third task, it all moves pretty quickly from this point on. In your server, you're going to open up File Explorer and find the spare directory or make one, and then open Properties, then use the Sharing tab, then Advanced Sharing, then select Share this folder and add a $sign to the name. Then while that window's open, you're going to select Permissions, and you're going to remove the entry for everyone, and then add your own account to the change permissions. Now, if you have another login account on your server set up, you can add that one and assign it read permissions instead of change permissions. Click Apply, And then from the security tab, set up the same entries inside the permissions for the security. So I'm going to do it first with sharing, then I'm going to do it in the security tab, same way. The names are a little different. Instead of change, it's modified. Instead of read, it's read and execute. So it's a little different permission. And then this thing about disable inheritance. Now, when you're done, it means that from your host, you can connect to that shared folder on the virtual machine. What am I doing? Okay, we're going to do this very quickly. And then you'll have what you need to do the next steps. I'm going to go into my C drive. Everybody with me?
Yep.
Do you see a spare folder? Do you see a spare folder there?
No, so I guess we have to make one.
I'm going to make one. Spare. Now I'm going to right click it. I'm going to go to properties. I'm going to go to the sharing tab. I'm going to go to advanced sharing. I'm going to share this folder. I'm going to put a $sign by this folder. Then I'm going to hit permissions. Then I'm going to remove the default permissions because they suck. This is what causes all sorts of hacks on Windows machines. But hey, at least you can share easily. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to add my own login for my account, which in this case is still administrator. Okay? Can everybody see that?
Yep.
And what do I set it to? Change. Now I haven't set up another account, so I'm just going to say apply. Okay. And what does the $sign do? The $sign hides it on the network, but as long as I know where this, I know what the share is, then I can get to it. I'm going to hit apply. So if hackers get in, it's hidden from them, but the people who are in your network know it. I'm going to say, okay. Now I'm going to go back into properties. I'm going to go back to the security tab. I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to add. Well, actually, no, I'm going to disable inheritance. When I disable inheritance, I'm going to use the convert inherited permissions. Just like the everyone entry, this one sucks. Any users on my server get to look at, they get to look and execute everything? I don't think so. No, I don't want to do that. I'm going to remove that. Now here you see the administrators group has full control, but I'm going to add my local administrator account. Administrator. And I'm going to give it full control. Or actually I said modify. So I'm going to leave modify. I'll uncheck full control. There's a reason for that. I'll explain later. I'm going to check this box that says replace all child object permission entries with inheritable permission entries from this object. What it means is these settings will take effect on anything that's inside spare and spare itself. I'm going to say okay. I'm going to apply and I'm going to say yes and okay and then okay. And now, are you ready for the coolness factor? I'm going to my laptop. And here I am on Zorg. And I want to connect a network directory. So one of the ways to do this is with the command prompt. That's in the assignment. That's down here. But you can map a network drive on your local system. All right, so I'm going to tweak that so it says local system. So how do I do that quickly and efficiently? I'm going into my file explorer, and then I'm going to look for this, the ellipse, and everybody see map network drive?
Yep.
Map network drive. Okay. I'm going to connect using different credentials. I have an administrator account I just set up on my server. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change the drive letter to S. S for source. Does that make sense? Instead of browsing, I'm going to put / Zorg. Then I'm going to put / spare with a $sign. As soon as I hit finish, it's going to ask me to give my username. I'm using Lilu, so I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put a backslash. That's the system. The account that I'm using is administrator. Everybody see this? Now I'm going to put in my password. I'm going to check the box that says remember my credentials because I don't want to have to keep doing that. I'll say okay. And then it'll attempt to connect to Zorg spare $. Now, if it says specified network password is not correct, it could be, let me try this again. Might have typed it in wrong. Okay. I will figure out what the problem is here, but as soon as you click OK, what happens is that an S drive appears, and every time you log into your laptop, if your virtual machine is running, it connects to the S drive on the server. And okay, so everybody see this? More choices? I'm going to try a little account. I'm going to try a little trick. Instead of using Lilu, I'm going to put in the IP address of that machine just to see if I can tickle it. And then I'll put in administrator, making sure I typed it correctly. And then I'm going to put that. No. All right, there's something else that's going on. It could be that I have to turn on file and print sharing in the security on the server yet. If that's the case, we'll go ahead and revise our solution to include that detail. I think it's important for us to stop at this stage. I will record a short how-to session with the rest of this, including the command prompt to use that. And what it'll do is create an S drive. If I go in here and I try to connect to S, I do this, I don't have one. But after I issue that command, it connects. So there you have it. That's the broad strokes with the paintbrush. We'll take up some finer ones and post a quick link for 2 or 3 minutes of helpful hints after we clear the screen. Can you think of anything, a question or a comment or a concern that you'd care to share based on the material that we've presented today? Hearing none. At this point, we'll close, and good luck with your solution, and we'll see you on Friday.